So this lecture is another short recording, some more tips and tricks in Lightroom, and I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you this landscape photograph. Right now you can see that I'm playing around with the presets. Again, I like to start off by seeing what those presets are going to look like when I look at my image. It gives me a good place to start. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about that particular technique, but this is where I start from. This particular image I took in Champaign, so if you've ever been to the University of Illinois campus, you can actually go see this in the Japanese garden area. So a few things that I want to talk about today. I want to talk a little bit about straightening a line in a photograph. I also want to talk about some color techniques, and really, again, I want to go over a little bit of the healing brush, but remember, we're going to go back. Okay, so remember with the presets, I can pick different categories. That's what I'm doing right now. This one is really intense, Purple Armageddon Sky. So I like to pick one that's a little bit more saturated than the image that I took, but it's still somewhat realistic. You can see I'm scrolling down on the right to the edit bar, and I'm going all the way to the bottom, and I am selecting geometry. There is a button right underneath that says upright, and then you see those 4 bars. It says guided upright. Draw 2 or more lines in the photo, and then it will straighten it out for you. So what I'm doing, you can see I have a little circle that pops up, and to the top left of that circle there's a very faint cross. And so I'm going to start by drawing a straight line on that horizon line, and I'm going to go all the way across the page, or the photograph I should say, and I'm going to draw a line that looks relatively straight to me. Again, it's close, but it feels just a hair off. I need a second line in order to make that straight, and so I'm drawing a straight line. Note that these are not parallel lines because, again, that photograph feels off to me. So you can now see it automatically adjusted that horizon, making the images a little bit more level. If I show you what it looked like beforehand, that's what it looked like, and then I can scroll back and show you what it looks like now. So this is really useful when I have landscapes that aren't maybe quite level, and again, I'm going back and forth, or buildings. I also can go down to the crop button. If I select the crop button, I can straighten an image that way as well. That's certainly another option. But I tend to like using the geometry guide because I have more control over what parts of the image I think need to be straightened, whereas the crop tool just kind of does a mass image shift. So that is the geometry, specifically the upright guided button. There are other features in that you can explore, but I'm going to go ahead and scroll up and show you the detail and the effects button. So when I'm looking at these 2 options, and I say button like it's a button, but they're little carrots, I want to make sure I turn off my geometry. Oh wait, it gets rid of my fixes. So I don't actually have to turn it off, but I do have to click that button again so that I'm not stuck in that mode. Now you can see the sharpening button. So what happens when I sharpen an image? It's like kind of like you sharpen a pencil. The pixels are going to get crisper. And this is great for certain images and to a degree. But when I take it all the way to the right, even the grass that I see in the very background is really sharp. And that's not natural. When I go to blow up this image, like if I wanted to print out a 3-foot by 4-foot picture of it, I'm going to notice that it just doesn't, it looks too aggressive, and also it's probably going to feel a little off. And so I want to be careful when I'm using that sharpening tool. What I'm pointing out now is noise. So noise is where you have a darker value, typically, doesn't always have to be, and instead of it being a kind of straight value, or a straight color, it looks grainy. And that graininess is what we call noise. So if I want to reduce that in certain parts of the photograph, you can start to see it a little bit in the reflection. Again, scrolling to the right, scrolling to the left is going to change that for me. With everything, I just have to watch my balance. I do not need to use every single tool on every single photograph. You know, especially digital photography, it is very much about knowing what tools to use when. In terms of effects, you can see that I am quickly, and I jump back to detail, I quickly held down this eyeball, and if I want to see what my images did, but I don't want to change them, I don't want to get rid of them, I can click on that eyeball and I'll lose some of my visibility. And by visibility, I mean edits. So you can see before and after, but it's not going to take those edits away. So let's jump back to the effects. Again, a lot of this is going to be you figuring things out as you go along. Now, say I have this nice stone statue here. If I take the texture all the way up to the right, it's going to bring out some of that nice stone feature. But the problem is, if you look at the background, it's also going to take away some of the softness that you would find with the grass and the trees. So usually taking it up to 100% is probably not going to be the answer to me. But, you know, again, every photograph is different. But I did go ahead and bump the texture down. Same thing with clarity. How clear, how, you know, how easy it is to see something. Dehaze, again, you think of it being hazy. This almost looks like fog or smoke. That's a good way to think of it. And then if I take it all way to the right, it's kind of like it's a beautiful cloud-free day. There's no haze in the atmosphere. Vignette is typical for portrait photography. It's those white or black corners that make a circle in a photograph. I always tell people to be aware and be cautious of using too many vignettes because they start to lose importance the more that you use. Again, traditionally used for portrait photography. Of course, you can use them for other settings, but again, just like anything, don't overkill your your edit buttons. And grain, again, I talked a little bit about that. You can think almost like a rice grain, except of course this is much tinier. If I have it to the left, it's not going to adjust it. If it goes to the right all the way up to 100, then your photograph is going to feel more grainy. I'm going to see more texture in it. So again, we talked about that guided geometry. We talked about the detail caret, and we talked about effects. I do want to talk about color grading, but I also want to show you in this photograph what is really driving me crazy. Yes, I have green plastic from where those trees are being planted, so to speak, but I also have a couple walking their dog, and because it's in the center of the image, it is driving me nuts. It's really distracting. So if I click on the healing brush tool, which is 1, 2, 3 down, looks like a band-aid, I can use that healing brush to figure out or to kind of put a digital band-aid, so to speak, on an area of a photograph. So you see, I just held down the brush, I swiped over the area I wanted to change, and then I have 2 blue dots. The one on the left is going to be the image I'm covering up. The one on the right is going to be that area that I want it to replace the circle that I've just drawn. And you can see, if I look at the image that it's filling right now, it doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see I'm moving it around, really being intentional with some of that replacements here. But I'm actually going to undo it because I don't like that particular edit. And I'm going to try it again. So you're going to see, again, this time I'm going a little bit more square-like. And you can see that's not bad. That is replacing your image, the people walking their dogs, with the grass and the trees immediately to the right of it. Is it perfect? No. But does it replace, and you can see again, I'm getting too close to that greenery and it doesn't make sense. So again, I'm just showing you one more time what that looks like with the healing brush. I'm drawing a little line over them. And then again, I may have to play around with this. This doesn't look right either, right? So I can move it down and try and line that up in a way that makes more sense. You can see I accidentally clicked over here, so it's going to start replacing that section with miscellaneous textures from the image. So when I do that, I can always hit that back button, and I'm now hitting Command Z to go backwards to find that edit that I liked. So quite a few things that we talked about here, but now when I zoom out, I can't really see or tell that I've replaced it. There is a little bit of a shadow that I could probably work out, but again, I don't immediately see that little distraction of the people walking their dogs that was right in the center of the picture, and that's really why my eye couldn't stop focusing on them, is the positioning. So I also want to talk a little bit about color gradients, color grading, and that's what I'm going to do in this next video. So make sure you stay tuned and you check that out. And then again, every module I try to go over more and more details about different edits you can do in Lightroom.